Alright everyone, no intro for this one because I changed off of Lalafell and I didn't really get around to making an intro. I also didn't have the audio on this one because I was listening to some music and YouTube copyright. But today's video is going to cover more advanced polling mechanics, including a focus on big polls. Now, this is Hawkman or Hard, which kind of forces you into some small polls by sectioning them off, but that makes it a good example to show how not necessary it is to do a big poll, but how much time extra it doesn't really add as long as people can handle healing the tank and using area of effect abilities to their maximum potential. So first thing you notice is I always ask everybody if they want to do big polls, and as long as I don't get a single objection, I'm usually okay with it. You see, I don't do a ranged pull. I run up, I use a melee ability, and then I throw my ranged attack at it just to make sure nobody steals the aggro, but I just run into the next group. Now, one important thing that I want to talk about is you don't always have to start with a ranged ability. Assuming that the healer doesn't have a heal over time like regen on you, and the enemies are already tightly grouped where you can hit them all with your area of effect ability, you don't have to use your ranged ability to start pulling them towards you. You can simply run up and use your area of effect ability. It saves time in the sense that you're getting extra DPS in. There's not as much risk of losing everything to a healer or a DPS. You can see right at the start of that, the healer started to take aggro from having Medica 2 on everybody. I haven't really done a big pull yet, but that's perfect because it lets me talk about these different polls. So when your opponents are more spread out, like I know the level, I think it's 34 dungeon, um, Brave Fox's Long Step, a lot of the enemies are spread out throughout that dungeon, so you want to use your pull ability and start bringing all that enemy group together so that you can use your area of effect. Also on the topic of that dungeon, that's a very dangerous dungeon to big pull just because of the number of patrolling enemies in that dungeon. You might think you're okay, and then somebody's standing at the edge of the patrol, and you end up pulling 2 to 3 more enemies. So if you haven't done that dungeon yet and you're watching this trying to figure out if you should do big polls because some higher level person's complaining, uh, just tell them you're not comfortable with it. So you can see I used my melee ability, I ran up, I used my full AoE combo because I wasn't sure if I'd actually gotten all 3 of those in it. And then I run ahead knowing that 2 more things spawn. I wonder if I can hit them both with one ability. I can't, but I still tag them both, pull everything into this corner, and you'll notice throughout all this I've been using my defensive cooldowns to help out the healer, and I've been making sure I never face the enemies directly towards the group. But you can see everything extra just got bursted down so quickly that to have stopped, fought them, moved on, stopped, fought them, moved on, it would have actually taken longer if it wasn't all pulled into one group. So that is the benefit to doing a big pull, is if your healer can handle it and you have a group that can put out some area of effect damage, there's no reason not to. It's typically faster to do big pulls, but it's also a comfort thing. If you're not comfortable with big pulls and somebody asks you to, just say, hey, I'm not all that comfortable with it. I can pull 1 or 2 groups at a time. And usually that's fine enough. If you're playing with somebody that also tanks, they'll probably give you some advice. If you're playing with a healer, they might say that they're really good at healing, so you can feel comfortable with pulling bigger groups. And if nobody says anything, you're the tank, you're in charge, you're going to pull things at your own pace. I'm not going to show this whole dungeon this time around because I cut it off with the audio issue. I didn't want to be rambling the entire time on how to pull enemies because really that's it. If they're tightly grouped together, go ahead and use your area of effect ability. You just run in and start pulling. If they're far apart, you're going to use your ranged ability to start bringing them into a cluster. And honestly, that's all there is to pulling enemies. Big pulls is a comfort thing. I hope you enjoy. See you next time.